I'm sorry, you're saying there's a multiverse?
That all possibilities that can happen do happen.
I think it's parallel universe.
There's some dark version of us out there somewhere.
You've created a whole new world.
No. You guys don't get it.
The word multiverse has recently been catapulted to the forefront of cinematic discourse through films such as Everything Everywhere All at Once and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. But what is a multiverse, and is it scientifically possible? Are there other versions of us, and could we potentially meet them? How does the science compare to the cinematic interpretation? Before I get to answering those questions, please consider subscribing and switching on notifications, as it really helps our channel out. And if you are feeling particularly generous, give us a like as well. That tells YouTube that this video is worth showing to others. Let's begin with a brief history of the multiverse. The existence of multiple universes has been hypothesized across history in cosmology, physics, astronomy, religion, philosophy, psychology, music, and plenty of literature, particularly in comic books and sci-fi novels. Early recorded examples were found in the philosophy of ancient Greek atomism, which proposed that the physical universe is composed of fundamental indivisible components called atoms. And philosophers suggested that the collision of these atoms could create parallel worlds. Russian-American physicist Andrei Lind explains that the term multiverse means the entire ensemble of innumerable regions of disconnected spacetime. Simply put, an infinite amount of universes that are separate from one another. The multiverse has been a hotly contested topic in the physics community, with many physicists arguing that it is not a legitimate topic of scientific inquiry because it cannot be empirically falsified. We simply do not have the technology to reach or see far enough into space to look for other universes. In fact, we don't have the technology to conclude the exact size of our own universe. String theorist Brian Greene developed a list of 9 possible types of multiverses, one of which is the inflationary multiverse, relating to the dominant theory regarding the topic called the eternal inflation theory. This theory builds on and extends upon the Big Bang theory that suggests a vast expansion of extremely condensed material produced quantum fluctuations and collisions, leading to the creation of our universe, including Earth, which follows specific laws of physics allowing life to develop. The eternal inflation theory suggests that if our Big Bang can exist, then so can others, creating a multiverse. It is most popularly imagined as quantum or space-time foam, where each universe is a bubble. The foam continuously creates and destroys bubbles in an infinite bubble bath of incomprehensible chaos. Essentially, the title of Everything Everywhere All at Once summarizes the multiverse perfectly, and in that film it is presented as this quantum foam, an infinite number of individual bubbles that are separate from one another. In the MCU, the multiverse is organized a bit differently. There is a sacred timeline, a term used to describe the space-time reality created by superior beings called timekeepers. They essentially managed the chaos of the Big Bang by separating each universe into their own branch of the timeline. In the TV series Loki, the titular character gets arrested because his actions threaten to disrupt the sacred timeline. Timekeepers are a pure sci-fi invention. If timekeepers exist, then there definitely is no evidence of them. Interestingly, in terms of the everyday people living in their individual universes in the MCU, they would be unaware that the timekeepers even exist, which means they occupy a similar space in the fictional world as gods or multiple gods do in many religions in real life. The presentation of the multiverse in the MCU is structured more like another of Green's types, the quantum multiverse, which proposes more of a tree structure with different universes branching when a diversion in events occurs. This is the type of multiverse we usually see in films that utilize alternate or parallel universes, and it's usually connected to time travel. Time travel has actually been proven possible through multiple solutions of Einstein's equations, though mainly the studies support forward travel. Backwards travel is plagued by the problem of paradox, which I have previously discussed in my analysis of Tenet, i.e. if you go back and kill your grandparent, do you cease to exist because they then never had your parent who never had you? Well, quantum theory resolves this paradox question. There is no solution in which you can change the present as you know it. If you time travel and stop Thanos from snapping his fingers, this creates a new branch, a new universe in which Thanos didn't snap, alongside the one where he did. This doesn't exactly make sense with the events of the Avengers films, but it's as far as the science will go before needing a sprinkling of imagination to work in the MCU. This discrepancy plagues many cinematic plot lines that involve time travel, including Back to the Future, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Donnie Darko, and Tenet, to name a few, though, as Christopher Nolan has specified repeatedly, Tenet is not a time travel film, even though it involves traveling through time. Feel free to check out my analysis and Q&A videos if you want to open that can of worms. But let's get back to the multiverse. What do these other universes look like? The eternal inflation theory postulates that each universe being created has its own unique properties, atmospheric conditions, and laws of physics that can differ from ours. One universe may be unable to support the creation of stars, so it is just a cold and desolate darkness. Another universe may be brimming with supernovas. The point is that not every universe in the multiverse will be able to support life, or not to the level required in order to sustain human beings. In fact, there is only a limited range in the conditions that we need in order to survive as a species, i.e. the specific temperatures, oxygen level, and atmospheric pressure that our bodies need to function. If our conditions change too drastically, we die. For example, when mountain climbers reach high altitudes that have lower levels of oxygen, or people living in extremely hot or cold climates die from prolonged exposure to one extreme state or the other respectively. However, considering the eternal and infinite creation, destruction, and expansion involved in a multiverse, eventually it is statistically possible for a universe to appear with a planet in it that can allow for human life to develop. The idea that this universe would then develop in such a way so as to create exact copies of the same people as other universes is where it gets a little fanciful, considering the absolutely random genetic lottery that takes place in the creation of any species. Essentially, many of the other universes within the multiverse will be totally different from ours, but those that are similar may not lead to the same types of species that we have in our very particular universe, and specifically planet, which we can already see within our tiny Milky Way is the only planet able to sustain such life. In the MCU, especially Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, we get to see multiple other universes. There's one particular sequence where America and Strange travel through the multiverse and briefly break into little cubes and then become paint, before getting to some more humanly hospitable universes where the main plot unfolds. Curiously, Spider-Man No Way Home presents a very limited view of the MCU multiverse, where the three Spider-Men appear to come from almost identical universes, save for some specific interpersonal and physical details about each Spider-Man's life. As journalist Chilton eloquently puts it, we are treated not to an actual multiverse, but a handful of alternate universes with aesthetic differences that can be gleaned and then quickly forgotten as the plots dictate. As we can see from these two examples from Marvel, only really the universes that serve the plot are shown or discussed, with No Way Home's choices feeling particularly untarnished by the rest of the multiverse. Everything Everywhere All at Once includes a wider selection of universes, though we mostly just see a frame or two of each as Evelyn and Joy travel through the multiverse. However, there are a few unique ones that are given more screen time, such as the one where everyone has hot dogs for fingers and the one where everyone is a rock. Now that we've established what a multiverse is and what it potentially looks like, one final burning question remains. Is multiverse travel actually possible? The short answer is no, not currently and not in the foreseeable future. As I mentioned, we lack the tools to explore our own universe fully, and this issue gets considerably bigger in terms of reaching the hypothetical end of our universe in order to maybe find another one. If we do eventually have the technology required to reach the end of our universe, and then we see that there is another universe there, then there are still more hurdles to overcome, because that universe would have to be one of the infinite possible universes that is compatible with ours. You see, when Doctor Strange and America turn into cubes and paint, they'd cease to exist because their bodies, which are bound to the laws of physics in our universe, are changed past the necessary composition to allow for life. The same applies to the rock versions of Evelyn and Joy. Furthermore, inflation theory suggests that the multiverse continues to expand at speeds approaching the speed of light, so in order to travel between the different universes, then we too would need to travel this fast, which is currently impossible. However, if somehow these multiverse travelers overcome these obstacles, then yes, eventually they could end up traveling to a universe where there exists a version of themselves. In the MCU, this can be achieved by using the astral dimension, where souls can exist without their bodies. Despite having this easy way of traveling for the purposes of the story, we do see the characters physically going into other universes and meeting themselves. Everything Everywhere sticks to the easy option, keeping its verse jumping, which is what the multiverse travel is called, to the mind. The physical versions of the characters are kept in their own universes, whilst the travelers move only their consciousness between bodies, in order to learn the skills that these alternate versions have learned. The jumping pads that trigger the move are both ridiculous and brilliantly entertaining. The key difference between science and cinema here is that science would unequivocally say multiverse travel is impossible in our human form, but cinema has found a way to make it possible through spiritual, psychological, and/or magical powers that overcome our physical restrictions. In conclusion, the existence of the multiverse is possible. We lack the technology to find out for sure, but we also lack the technology to confirm it doesn't exist. Then, with the infinite amount of universes, it is hypothetically possible for another you to exist, but you would be hard-pressed to make contact or ever meet that other you. Essentially, this existential crisis-inducing area of study hits the sweet spot for sci-fi, fantasy, and comic book writers and screenwriters to thrive in. They take these theories and imagine answers to the impossible, filling in the unknown to create visually exciting stories that are truly out of this world. Technically though, no story can really capture the full extent of the multiverse. Not in the MCU and not in Everything Everywhere All at Once, even with The Bagel. Each story picks and chooses which universes it wants to feature to allow the story to unfold naturally. To quote Louis Chilton once again, "It's not so much a multiverse of madness as a multiverse of restraint and screenplay practicalities, but that wouldn't really work on a poster." Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe and switch on notifications so you don't miss future videos, and comment below with your thoughts on the topic. What hypothetical universe would you like to visit? And what science versus cinema topic would you like us to tackle next? For more film content, feel free to follow us on Twitter, Letterboxd, and TikTok. Links in the description. Otherwise, this has been Tea Break Film Reviews. My name's Michelle, and I hope you have a great day.